The bobcat sat on the roof vent cap like it owned the hospital, not on the parking garage, not in the landscaped courtyard where deer occasionally wandered at night. On the roof, perched on the round metal vent cap above the laundry wing, body tucked tight against the cold wind, tufted ears forward, staring down into the same rectangular exhaust grate as if something inside the building was breathing wrong. At 2:11 a.m., Nurse Tara Huang saw it on the security monitor and did what every tired night shift nurse did when the world offered an extra problem. She swore quietly, reached for the phone, and prepared to call security. But the animal didn't run when floodlights shifted. It didn't move when the rooftop fan kicked on. It stayed there through 3 camera sweeps, as if it had been waiting for someone inside to notice what it could smell and hear long before humans did. And when the first alarm finally sounded inside the laundry room, thin, electronic, easy to ignore under the background hum of a hospital, Tara realized the bobcat wasn't just some wildcat on the roof. It was the only warning they got before smoke and heat turned a quiet corner of the building into a trap. One North Valley Medical Center wasn't a big city hospital with glass atriums and quiet hallways. It was a regional workhorse, 4 floors, aging wings added in decades like mismatched puzzles, and a constant low roar of activity even at night. The ER never truly slept. The maternity ward could go from calm to chaos in 2 minutes. The pharmacy ran on locked systems and tired technicians. The laundry wing, attached at the back like an afterthought, was the kind of place most staff barely thought about unless they ran out of clean sheets. Hospitals were built on routines that had to hold under pressure. Tara Huang had built her entire adult life around those routines. She was 34, an experienced night shift nurse on the 4th-floor medical surgical unit, with the kind of steady competence that made new nurses relax the moment she walked into a room. Tara had worked enough nights to know what quiet really meant in a hospital. Not silence, but the absence of wrongness. The absence of a monitor alarm that wouldn't stop, of a patient whose breathing changed, of the smell that didn't belong. She wasn't dramatic. She wasn't easily spooked. She was, in the language of her coworkers, solid. That night, the hospital was running thin. Staffing shortages, one nurse out sick, one float nurse pulled to the ER. Tara had 7 patients instead of the usual 5. She moved through med passes, vitals, charting, and the constant smaller tasks no one sees. Repositioning an elderly man so his skin wouldn't break down, reassuring a young woman with pneumonia who woke up gasping in panic, replacing a soaked IV dressing at 1:30 a.m. because infection doesn't care what time it is. At 2:03, she sat at the nurse's station with a cup of coffee that was more heat than taste and glanced up at the security monitor mounted above the medication room door. The monitor rotated through camera feeds: ambulance bay, main lobby, ER entrance, pharmacy corridor, and the roof access points. Most nurses ignored it. Tara looked at it because she'd learned that hospitals hide danger in ordinary corners. That was when she saw the animal, a cat shape on the roof, captured in grainy night vision green. At first, her brain labeled it stray and moved on. Then the shape lifted its head and she saw the ears. Tufted, short tail, bobcat. Tara blinked hard. No! She leaned closer to the screen. The camera angle showed the laundry wing roof, flat, tarred, with HVAC units and a cluster of vents. The bobcat sat on the rounded cap of one vent like it had found a throne, balanced and still. Wind ruffled its coat. It didn't pace like an animal exploring. It didn't creep toward rooftop units. It sat with its head angled downward at the vent opening, as if listening. Hospitals in North Valley had wildlife occasionally. Raccoons in dumpsters, deer near the helipad, once a coyote in the parking lot that made the local news. But a bobcat on the roof at 2 a.m. was not common. Tara reached for the phone to call security, then paused. The bobcat wasn't doing anything that looked like it needed removal. It wasn't snarling. It wasn't trapped. It wasn't trying to get inside. It just sat. She told herself, call it in anyway, better safe. She dialed the internal security line. This is Tara on 4 West. There's a bobcat on the roof, laundry wing camera feed. Security officer Mike Darden sounded half asleep but polite. A bobcat? Yes, on the roof. Camera 6. A pause, keyboard clicks. Then, huh, yeah, I see it. Weird. Can you do something? We can shoo it off when we send someone to check roof access, but it's not near patients. Tara hesitated. It's sitting right on a vent cap. So it likes the warmth, Mike said, already reducing it to nuisance logic. Maybe, Tara said slowly, but something in her didn't believe that was enough, because laundry exhaust vents weren't warm at night unless laundry was running, and laundry ran constantly. Warmth was plausible, but the way the bobcat stared, that didn't look like warmth, that looked like focus. Mike said, I'll notify facilities to check the roof access door is secure. Okay, Tara replied and hung up. She tried to go back to charting, but her eyes kept drifting to the monitor. The bobcat didn't move. 2 at 2:19, the first alarm chirped. Not the kind of alarm that makes nurses run, not a code blue or a vent alarm. A simple, repetitive beep from the building system, one of the many facility alerts that sometimes came through as a soft tone over the intercom and a flashing line on the building monitor screen. It was labeled, Laundry Exhaust Temp High, Zone 3. Tara saw it because she was watching the monitor, still unsettled by the bobcat. Most nights that alert would have been background noise. Dryer exhaust runs hot, sensors glitch, facilities clears it on a work order. But her stomach tightened. Zone 3 was the older dryer bank, the one that had been patched last winter after a lint fire scare. Tara stood. The charge nurse, Nia, looked up. What's up? Tara pointed at the monitor. Laundry exhaust temp high. Nia shrugged tiredly. Facilities will handle it. Tara didn't sit back down. Can you call facilities and make sure someone actually goes now? Nia raised an eyebrow at Tara's tone. Tara didn't push urgency without reason. All right, Nia said, and picked up the phone. Tara looked back at the roof camera feed. The bobcat was still on the vent cap. It shifted slightly and Tara could see its chest move with breathing, slow and steady. Then it leaned down and sniffed at the vent opening. That was when Tara smelled something faint at her own station. At first she thought it was the coffee. Then she realized it wasn't food. A dry, sharp odor on the air system. Hot dust, warm plastic. The smell that comes just before smoke becomes obvious. Tara's pulse spiked. Hospitals have smells constantly. Cleaners, antiseptic, bodily fluids, cafeteria food, old carpets. Nurses become skilled at sorting them quickly. This smell didn't belong. It was subtle enough that others might miss it. But Tara didn't miss it. She grabbed a portable pulse ox and her stethoscope without thinking. Habit, not logic, and moved quickly toward the stairwell that connected to the laundry wing corridor. Where are you going? Nia asked. Checking, Tara said. Nia's voice snapped sharper. Tara, don't go chasing facility issues. That's not... Tara turned, face pale. That smell is in our air return. Nia stopped mid-sentence. Call Mike and security again, Tara said, and call facilities. Tell them to shut down Dryer Bank if they haven't already. Nia didn't argue now. She grabbed the phone, her own instinct catching up. Tara moved down the hallway. She passed sleeping patients, IV pumps blinking, monitors humming. Everything looked normal. That was the terrifying part. Fire and smoke don't announce themselves politely. They build behind walls and vents while the building continues pretending. At the service corridor door leading toward laundry, the smell strengthened. Tara's throat went tight. She pushed through the door into the back corridor, where staff only went if they had a reason. The lighting was dimmer. The floors were more industrial. The air had a humid warmth, and the smell, burning lint, hit her full force. Oh no. 3. The laundry wing was a separate universe. Long rows of industrial washers and dryers, folding stations, carts stacked with sheets, and vents that ran like arteries through the ceiling. It operated 24/7 because hospitals never stopped producing laundry. At 2:27 a.m., it should have been staffed by 2 overnight laundry techs, but the room was oddly quiet. No voices, no carts rolling, no laughter from the radio that usually played low. Tara stepped in and called, "Hello?" No answer. The exhaust temperature alarm beeped again from a panel on the wall. Tara's heart hammered. She walked carefully between carts, eyes scanning. That's when she saw it, a faint haze near the older dryer bank, just above the vent connection, barely visible in the fluorescent light. Smoke. Thin at first, like breath in cold, then thicker. Tara's mouth went dry. Fire, she said out loud, because naming it made it real enough to act. She turned toward the emergency shutoff panel, a red switch designed to cut power to the dryer bank. And then she heard a sound from behind the dryers. A small sound. Not machinery. A cough. Tiny. Human. Tara froze so hard it felt like her body locked. Another cough. Weak. Wet. Someone was back there. Her mind flashed through possibilities with brutal speed. A laundry tech collapsed. Someone trapped. Someone hiding. Someone unconscious from fumes. Smoke plus enclosed space plus person behind equipment equals immediate danger. Tara moved toward the dryer bank fast, but the heat near the vent connection made her step back instinctively. The vent hose area glowed slightly warmer in the fluorescent flicker, and the smell of burning lint was stronger there, almost sweet in the worst way. She grabbed the wall phone and hit the emergency code. "This is Nurse Tara Huang," she said into the intercom, voice forcing calm. "Fire in laundry wing, older dryer bank, possible person trapped behind equipment. Activate fire response now." The building system responded with a hard tone, louder than before. Alarms began to escalate. Tara sprinted to the red shutoff and slammed it down. The dryer's hum died instantly. The exhaust fan sound shifted. Smoke hesitated, then continued, because lint fires don't care if the machine is off once ignition has begun. Tara coughed as the air thickened. "Hey!" she shouted toward the back of the dryer row. "Can you hear me?" A weak voice answered, almost swallowed by smoke. "Help! I'm stuck." Child voice. Tara's blood turned to ice. A child did not belong in the hospital laundry wing at 2:27 a.m., unless the child belonged to someone who worked here, unless someone had brought them, unless they had wandered or been hidden. Tara's mind didn't have time to solve the why. It only had time to solve now. She grabbed the nearest clean towel bundle and wrapped it around her face as a filter. She pulled her scrub-top collar up. She moved down the row, staying low toward the sound. Behind the last dryer unit, she saw a small figure wedged between a laundry cart and the wall. On the floor, knees drawn up, eyes streaming, face smudged with lint. A boy, maybe 7 or 8. And beside him, right where the vent line ran into the wall, an orange glow flickered. The vent duct had ignited. Lint buildup in the duct, or a motor overheating, had started a smolder behind the metal panel. It had finally found oxygen. Now it was climbing. Tara's chest tightened with panic. The child coughed again, wheezing. She moved fast, grabbed the cart handle, and yanked it away to create space. The boy tried to crawl but slipped on the wet floor. Tara hooked one arm under his shoulders and hauled him up. "Come on," she said through cloth. "Come on, eyes on me." He clung to her, shaking. "Breathe," she commanded, more like she was talking to a patient in the ER than a kid in smoke. "Small breaths. We're going out." She half dragged him out of the aisle toward the door, keeping low. The smoke burned her eyes. The smell was brutal. She could hear the building alarms now, louder and distant footsteps. At the laundry door, 2 security officers appeared with a fire extinguisher and a maintenance tech behind them. "Tara!" Mike Darden shouted. "You okay?" "Kid!" Tara yelled, pushing the boy forward. "Get him out! He's inhaled smoke." Mike grabbed the boy immediately. "Where did he come from?" "Later," Tara snapped. "Fire is behind the dryer vent." The maintenance tech, Ravi Patel, slammed open the duct access panel and cursed. "Lint fire! It's in the run." Security handed Tara the extinguisher, but the fire was in the duct, not easily accessible. You can knock down flame, but duct fires can travel. They need proper suppression and shutoffs. Facilities arrived seconds later with another extinguisher and a thermal camera. Then the hospital fire response team. Then finally, city firefighters pulled up to the back service bay. Tara stood in the corridor with smoke sting in her lungs, watching the chaos unfold and realizing she had nearly walked into a lethal pocket if she'd hesitated another minute. And then she remembered the Bobcat. She turned her head toward the hallway monitor by the laundry office and saw the roof camera feed still cycling. The Bobcat was gone now. The vent cap sat empty. But the sequence made a sick kind of sense. The animal had been on the vent cap while the duct overheated. It stayed because smell and heat drew it. and its fixation pulled Tara's attention to the roof feed long enough that she saw the alert and didn't dismiss it. If she hadn't looked, if she hadn't pushed, the fire might have grown into the ceiling ductwork before anyone reacted. And that child behind the dryers, that was a second layer of horror. Or 4. The boy's name was Mateo. He was 8, small for his age, with a mop of dark hair and eyes red from smoke. Paramedics put him on oxygen in the service corridor, checked his breathing, and moved him to the ER for further evaluation. Tara followed because nurse brains don't drop patients just because someone else holds the chart. In the ER bay, under bright lights, Mateo clutched the oxygen mask and looked like an animal more than a child. Pure survival, no words. His hands trembled. Tara crouched beside him and softened her voice. "Hey, you're safe now. What's your mom's name? Your dad?" Mateo swallowed hard. "Mom works laundry." Tara's heart sank. Laundry staff sometimes brought kids in emergencies. Childcare fell through, shifts changed, life broke. It was against policy, but policies bend under poverty and exhaustion more than administrators like to admit. "What's her name?" Tara asked. "Rosa." Tara turned to the charge nurse in the ER. "We need to locate a Rosa from laundry, now." Security and HR began moving fast. Facilities had the fire mostly contained, but they had evacuated the laundry wing and part of the service corridor due to smoke. Firefighters cut open sections of duct to prevent spread. The hospital went into partial internal alert mode. Within 20 minutes, Rosa Jimenez appeared in the ER in tears, hairnet still on, face gray with terror. She had been on break when the vent alarm began, then got pulled into a supply run by a supervisor, leaving Mateo sitting in the staff corner like she'd told him. At some point, he wandered, looking for her, looking for a bathroom, looking for something familiar in a confusing industrial space. He ended up behind the dryer bank because he heard machines and thought he'd find her there. Then smoke started and he panicked and hid, wedging himself into the narrow space between cart and wall. If Tara hadn't found him when she did, he could have lost consciousness in minutes. Rosa collapsed into a chair sobbing, clutching her son's hand like she could hold time itself with her grip. Tara stood back, lungs sore, hands still shaking now that the adrenaline was draining. This was the kind of situation that made people ask later, how did this almost happen? And the answer would be a messy chain: understaffing, policy bending, duct maintenance delays, a sensor alert that was easy to dismiss, an animal on a roof that looked like a curiosity until it didn't. Part 5. The investigation later found the root cause exactly where Tara had guessed. Lint buildup in the exhaust duct run, combined with an overheating motor in dryer 3. The exhaust temperature sensor triggered correctly, but the alert had been categorized as non-critical in the system because it had false alarmed before. That classification delayed the automatic escalation that would have sent an immediate page to facilities. The duct cleaning schedule, supposed to be quarterly, had slipped to whenever we can fit it after budget cuts. A slow failure stack waiting for oxygen. The bobcat, the wildlife officer later speculated, may have been drawn to warmth or smell from the vent. Animals can detect heat and chemical odors far earlier than humans. The cat might have been sitting at the exact vent where the overheating was strongest, because it was the warmest point on a cold roof night. That explanation was simple and scientific, but it didn't erase the impact. The bobcat made Tara look at the roof feed. It made her take the alarm seriously. It made her push facilities to respond faster. And because she arrived earlier, she heard a tiny cough behind the dryers before smoke built thick enough to hide a child completely. In the days after, the hospital did what institutions always do after a close call. They wrote policies. They installed additional sensors. They rescheduled duct cleaning. They issued memos about children on site and tightened access doors. They praised Tara formally for quick action and appropriate escalation. All true. None of it captured the moment that stayed with Tara most. Not the fire glow, not the smoke sting, not even the child's frightened eyes, though those haunted her too. What stayed with her was that roof camera feed. A bobcat sitting still on a vent cap, ears forward, staring down as if listening to a problem nobody else could hear yet. After that night, Tara couldn't walk past building alarms with the same casual dismissal. She couldn't smell warm dust without her stomach tightening. She couldn't see roof camera feeds without remembering the animal's quiet insistence. And she couldn't stop thinking about how close the hospital had come to the kind of headline nobody ever wants. Fire in laundry wing, child injured, all because an annoying little alert didn't get treated as urgent until a tired nurse decided to trust the feeling that something was wrong. 6. A week later, Tara ended up on a quick break in the staff courtyard at 3 a.m., wrapped in her jacket, holding a cup of tea she didn't really want. The night was cold again, stars sharp above the hospital roofline. Somewhere, a ventilation fan hummed. Security officer Mike Darden walked by and said, "No bobcats tonight." Tara gave a short laugh that didn't feel like laughter. "Good." Mike leaned on the railing. "You really think that cat mattered?" Tara stared up at the roof, at the shadowed shapes of vents and units. "I think it made me look," she said finally. "And looking is the only reason I heard that kid." Mike nodded slowly, as if letting that settle into a place in his mind where weird stories lived alongside hard truths. Tara finished her tea and went back inside because patients still needed meds, and machines still needed watching, and hospitals never stopped being fragile. But from that night forward, she understood something in her bones. Sometimes the first warning isn't an emergency page or a siren or smoke you can see. Sometimes it's a wild animal sitting on a vent cap in the cold, refusing to leave until a human finally hears the alarm inside.